Hi, everybody. It's Sue Stiles, and I'm your host of Hindsight's 2020. And today I am interviewing world-class athlete Lisa Longball Vlooswyk. She has won the Canadian Long Drive Championship 8 times, lucky 8. And Lisa, you have a lot of credits of firsts to your name. First pregnant athlete, first driving a ball more than 350 yards in a competition, first backflip on ESPN. I mean, you have a lot of kudos. I don't have time for the interview to go over all your stuff, but long drive. Maybe you can just tell us all, like, how did you find out about it or get into that sport?
Well, it was kind of funny because I find that golf is a key business networking skill. A lot of people do a lot of business on the golf course. And of course, people do business, people they know, like, and trust. So my husband had just graduated from university in engineering, and he was being invited out to corporate and charity golf tournaments. And so he dragged me out to the local munis, wherever we could afford to get on and play. And I started falling in love with it. And then actually back in 1999, the LPGA came to Calgary, and it only comes every 10 years. One of the four majors at the time on the LPGA tour called the Du Maurier Classic. And so I volunteered. And after volunteering that week, Sue, I was so inspired by watching these women play, the effortless grace that they have, the power they can generate in their small frames. And so I couldn't break 100 to save my life, but I was inspired to compete in golf. And luckily there's competitions for people who can't break 100. So I entered my first competition, and I came kind of near the end of the pack, but I was hitting it 80 to 100 yards past most of my other playing partners. Saw an advertisement for a long drive competition, and I entered, and I won with a 317-yard drive with a set of clubs from Costco. So who knew?
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always interesting to see how people get into what they're really good at. I'm sure you never imagined you were going to become this. Yeah.
No, if you told me 15 years ago, this is what I'd be doing for a living, I would have thought you were crazy. I never saw this as my path, yet now has absolutely become my passion.
Wow. Well, hindsight 2020 came about because I know there's lots of wisdom if we could only get together and share it more often. And I always like to start off asking my guests about the best way that they've come across getting clients or business.
Hmm.
You know, at your level, could you share what has worked the best for you with whatever that is for clients and business for you?
Absolutely. Well, my business looks a little different than many people's business in the way that, as a keynote speaker and a corporate and charity golf tournament entertainer, I'm event based. And so I have found my single best marketing or best business advice that I could give that way has been word of mouth. I have gotten the most clients and the best clients from truly just doing a spectacular job of every single event I do, giving it my 110%. And then those clients tend to be referring me after my events.
And you get a lot of online, like, referrals and testimonies too. Don't, is that part of your process?
Absolutely. So I think that that's a key too, that I think when you know that you've given your 110% and you've knocked it out of the park for a client, ask for that testimonial. Usually they are so thrilled with what you've done with the event. They are more than happy to provide that for you. I'll also give them a framework or some examples of some testimonials so that they have a sense of what to write, so that you know what points would be helpful to a future client. And I would post those on my website, or sometimes when I ask for requests for proposals, I will use some of those testimonials when I give my proposal back to show other clients that have been in similar industries that have been thrilled with my work. And again, that really comes from that word of mouth part of it. And I also think that it's important to be sharing that on Facebook, or Facebook, social media, Instagram, Twitter, using your social media accounts to show you, not just saying you're great, but use a video, have a client or customer say what a great job you've done, or even ask for them, even a LinkedIn recommendation. Those all go a long way, and that's all word of mouth advertising.
I think you have really got a good ear to what people are looking for at different, I mean, right now we're having a bit of a global crisis. And
Absolutely.
I know you were saying you're very careful to listen to the tone of what's going on in social media. So you're not just pushing yourself out there, but
Yeah.
like responding and connecting.
That's a great point, Sue. And I know we had a chance to talk about this because it's one of the things I've noticed, we've talked about this being unprecedented times with COVID-19. I received a few business emails, and it was funny that they got right down to business and were asking about this and donating this or requesting this. And I think nowadays we have to understand what's going on around us. So I think that really most of our correspondence, especially if it's initial correspondence, we haven't spoken to the person in at least a few weeks to even a few months or over a year, or perhaps it's a new client, we need to be asking, how are you doing? How's your family? And I think that that has to be part of our new business dialogue, because things are so different now. And by doing that, I think that shows a genuine interest in your customer, which you have, but you show that by actually asking them how they're doing, and not necessarily at this time getting straight down to business.
Yeah, so true. But we're so Canadian, and people often don't feel comfortable asking for testimonials. They don't feel comfortable working on social media. And if you're not sure, just go onto Lisa's Facebook page. It's just that engagement and back and forth, and you're very natural and always interesting to watch.
Well, thank you. And Sue, if I can give any advice to your viewers, is also, if you are active on social media, you need to make sure that you are responding to every single comment. I get comments all the time from my followers that really appreciate that, because if they take the time to write to you or make a comment back. I think that goes a really long way in terms of customer service these days. And if you are going to be on social media, don't just put the posts up. You have to make sure you're engaging back with your customers.
Yeah, great advice. So you were talking about, you get lots of business, all your business from word of mouth. And I know you do speaking, and I know you've been a successful, let's call you a celebrity athlete for many years. And last year you spoke, you said you did one of your hardest speeches ever. Tell us a little bit, I guess the question that's going on in my mind, you're at this level, you don't really have to keep working at it, and yet you do. So why go out?
So that's so what Sue is referring to is whatever industry you're in. I think the very toughest group to talk to are people from your own industry, because they know the terminology, the language back and forth. They know the pain points. So when you're talking to people from your industry, you can't just fake it till you make it. You better know your stuff inside and out. And so as a professional speaker, I'm a member of an association called the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, CAPS. And I was asked to be the closing keynote speaker at their annual conference this past December. Well, my initial reaction was to say, no, thank you so much, I'm honored, but no, I'm good. Because I knew, first of all, the amount of work I would have to put into it to absolutely knock out of the park in front of my own colleagues. And so initially, and then not only was I wasn't necessarily scared of the work as much as I was scared of the feedback. That I know that sometimes that we can all be a little judgy, and I was worried. I didn't want to be judgy or have people be judging me on, did she move to the stage the right way? Did she move her hand the right way? Did she pause enough? And so I was terrified, and I was so close to saying no, but I said yes. And I prepared, I worked my tail off. And you know what? It was absolutely, I would say, the best speaking experience I've had, because it pushed me. I feel I brought myself to another level as well. I also think it's the feedback from my professional colleagues that now that they've heard me speak, back to my number one business recommendation is word of mouth. Well, now my own professional speaking colleagues have heard me speak, and now they could recommend me with confidence. So absolutely best thing I've ever done. And if I could impart any advice from that, it's push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I know we've all heard that, but I think we only get better. We get stagnant if we just, even if you're at the top of your game, but if you're still just staying at that course, you're not getting any better. So I feel that always pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, that's where we find greatness.
Well, you're a very type A personality, lots of energy. It comes through no matter where someone is seeing you. You're very planned out. But I like what you're saying about taking those opportunities, because actually before you were a world-class champion, you were a school teacher.
I was. And so, you know, if we talk about some of the best decisions I've ever made, I believe teaching is a vocation. I believe it's a calling. It's all I ever wanted to do. I was a gymnastics coach, a day camp leader, a Sunday school teacher, all in hopes to one day become a school teacher. And when I received my first position, I was just over the moon elated. I just loved working with the children. But it was during this time that I discovered this weird, freaky ability to hit a golf ball a long way. And so I had this terrible choice that I had to make, that to compete at a world-class level, I had to train at a certain level and travel all across North America. And so I either had to quit competing so I could follow my love of teaching, or resign my school teaching position to try to follow this dream of winning a world long drive championships. And it was a very difficult choice to make. And I have to say that I think it's really important that we always surround ourselves with people who support us, because I think that there's a lot of naysayers out there and people that will always tear you down and tell you can't do it. But you have to surround yourself with people who you trust. And for me, that was my husband. And my husband said, you know, Lisa, you have a limited chance to be the best in the world in something. He's like, do it. And so I nervously signed that resignation letter. And again, it was the best thing that's ever happened to me, Sue. I never saw it coming. As you said, 15 years ago, I never would have seen this coming, but it's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wow. And one of the things that you are one of your first is being pregnant and being an athlete. So tell me a little bit about how did that go for you? Did anyone say you shouldn't do that? Like,
well, yeah, absolutely. So it was funny that so once I started competing at a world-class level, my husband and I wanted to have a family, but everyone kept telling me, you know, Lisa, once you have a baby, that's it. You'll never be world-class again. And so I remember feeling, you know what, for me, it's too important. I think we always need to know what's important to you and whatever that is. And for me, it was becoming a mom, and becoming a mom is truly the greatest gift I've ever had in my life. And so I didn't listen to the naysayers, and my husband was extremely supportive. And I was the first pregnant athlete at the World Long Drive Championships. I was 6.5 months pregnant, and it was really cool. As I went win-win through my first two brackets. I ended up top 10 in the world. And what an experience it was for me. And I believe that it kept me fit throughout my pregnancy. It helped me push myself, challenge my limits. Of course, I was in contact always with my medical professionals who were on top of it. They just told me no backflips. I just didn't do any of backflips when I was pregnant, but I came top 10 in the world. And then after having a child, I finished second in the world by 3 yards to a 5-time world long drive champion. So again, becoming a mom didn't hold me back in any way, shape, or form.
wow. Wow. Did you hear Katy Perry's just announced she's pregnant?
Oh, I have not. Well,
Yeah.
that's exciting.
Yeah, she just announced, and one of her cravings is Tabasco, which is why I heard about it. I always talk about Tabasco. So
I do like Tabasco on my eggs.
one day, you and I were at a meeting, and I've told you I was very impressed with this, but that it was an early morning meeting. We got there, and you said to me, gosh, you know, I've been up for 2 hours already because I had to do my workout before this. And inside my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding? It was a Saturday morning. You know, to me, I'm like sleeping in as much as I can. And you're up working out. Can you just share a bit of that mindset, or how do you get the discipline to be at such a high level internally?
Well, I think that it comes down to what your goals are, and so how serious and committed you are to your goals. So one of my goals is I want to win the World Long Drive Championships. Well, I'm a 40-something-year-old mom that competes against 20-year-old girls that are spectacular. And so if I want to be competitive, and if I truly am committed to trying to win a world title, then I've got to put the work in. And so we had our meeting at 9 a.m. Well, I had to get up at 5:55 that morning to get my workout in before going to that meeting, because once my day starts, and I'm sure many of your viewers would attest, that there doesn't ever seem to be enough hours in the day. So for me, I find the best workout time is first thing in the morning before anyone else is up, and get that workout in, because if I'm serious about it, then I've got to put my money where my mouth is.
Did you learn that over time? have you always been good with
No, I
managing
have
your?
not. Yeah, no, I haven't. And so it's funny. I think the greatest lessons we ever have, we don't actually, in my opinion, learn from our successes. We learn from our failures. And I remember having a disappointing appearance at a World Long Drive Championships, was not happy with my performance. And what had happened was, because I wear so many hats, so I'm a keynote speaker, I'm a golf entertainer, corporate and charity golf tournaments. I own my own golf school for women in both Canada and the US. I'm also a golf journalist. Oh, and that's right, and a mom. And so with all those, wearing all those hats, what I had let slide at some point in time were my workouts. And because of that, my performance suffered. So again, you don't need to work out, but it depends on what your goals are. My goal was to win the World Long Drive Championship. Then if I'm committed to that, then I've got to put the work in. And I realized that after I had my failure.
I just realized, world-class athlete takes world-class habits.
Absolutely,
It's
no
that
question.
world-class mindset. Did you ever experience anything like trying to make your way into a boys' club in the golf industry at all?
Well, it is. It's kind of like a woman in a man's world. That's very, very, very much so in golf. And I guess that it's even when my handicap became low enough, I wanted to play with the boys. There was a Friday morning skins game that got single-digit handicaps players would play at Heritage Point Golf Course, and validation skins. We played from the tips at 7,100 yards, and I was dying to be invited to that. And I remember that it was tough breaking into that, but when I did, and I was so appreciative and just tried to be just one of the group, that it wasn't men or it wasn't women, it was just I was a golfer. And I think that's where it finally came to that point. And that falls on me too sometimes. I think sometimes we put gender up there, but if sometimes it just has to be, you have to consider yourself, you don't think men and women, you just think I'm a golfer. But you also need good people around you that think that way as well too. But I see it on the golf course, like at times, sometimes in my corporate and charity golf tournaments, there's inappropriate comments, like people ask me about my golf equipment, and they'll say, I'll say that I hit a 47.5-inch driver with an extra stiff shaft, and I'll hear, "Oh, you want to see an extra stiff shaft, baby?" And I highly doubt my male counterparts receive comments like that. So, I still have to deal with that, unfortunately, every once in a while, but it's, it's getting a lot better. It's getting a lot better. And when I have run into that situation, instead of getting angry or emotional, what I've said to these people, I've said, how would you feel if someone said that to your wife or to your daughter or to your mother? And usually that kind of snaps them out of it a little bit. So when I run into something, but again, those cases are truly few and far between. Most, especially men that I run out to, they're gentlemen, they are wonderful. And especially if they have daughters and they understand that the world, and I do think that that hashtag Me Too movement definitely brought a lot up in the business world as to what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And even if you mean that even to be joking, it just might not be funny in a business setting.
Yeah, good points, like really good points, still to just remind ourselves even.
For sure, for sure.
I feel like I could talk to you all day, but if I could wrap up with piece of advice from Lisa Longball, what's the most important thing on your heart? What would you share if you had one piece of advice to give?
If I only had one piece of advice to give, it would absolutely be follow your passion. That I believe that you have to follow what's going to make you happy and what's in your heart. Because for me here, all I ever wanted to do was be an elementary school teacher, and I was this close to not taking that left-hand turn, to taking that opportunity to try to become a world long drive champion, which has morphed into I endorsed several brands and running my own golf school. That left-hand turn wouldn't have happened had I not entertained the idea. And because many business people and successful business people are type A personalities, they have a plan, they have a route, and they follow it. We have to always be open to follow our passions and take that left-hand turn, because we have no idea where that may lead. And it might be the best thing that ever happened to you, because it sure was for me.
So true. Lisa, if people want to find you, what is the best way to connect?
Definitely my website, which is www.lisalongball.com. I'm also on social media with my handles are at Lisa Longball on Twitter and Instagram, and also Facebook as well, page at Lisa Longball. So would love to connect with anyone. And if they have any questions or follow up, or if I can help in any way, help them get into golf, to find it to help with their business networking, or just even a wonderful leisure activity, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction.
Oh, you're so fun to be around. I enjoy your social media all the time. And thank you so much for taking the time out today on Hindsight's 2020. For today, that is a wrap. Hope you enjoyed that and connect with Lisa at your leisure. Thank you. Bye for
Thank
now.
you.